Paul Harvey is standing nearby with the rest of the story, so why don't you stand by, too, right after this.
Hello, Americans. I'm Paul Harvey. You know what the news is. Now you're going to hear the rest of the story. When our nation's leaders first learned that American citizens had been taken hostage half a world away, their first concern was the virtual impossibility of meeting the ransom demands. Of course, the United States government had never dealt with a Muslim nation under these circumstances before, nor could our diplomatic negotiators make any sense of that unpredictable Muslim leader over there. So, while home front newspapers were filled with speculation about the hostages, waves of indignation and confusion swept across the land. Could we then ever have imagined that it would happen again? For you see, the hostage crisis that I've just mentioned briefly occurred almost 200 years ago. Then the captor Muslim nation was Algeria. What happened in July of 1785 was that a United States vessel was seized by Algerian pirates. Piracy was a major source of income for the Barbary states, Tunis, Tripoli, Morocco, Algeria. Piracy and what they called piracy insurance, or tribute, also made it profitable to hold captives for ransom. So in 1785, this was 4 years before George Washington would become our first president, the Algerian government was holding American hostages, the entire crew of an American ship. The Algerian governor demanded $60,000. So pay, you say. But remember, in those fledgling years, our newly United States just could not come up with that kind of cash. And so, with the pleas of the captives' families ringing in our ears, we sat helpless. 1785, coincidentally, Thomas Jefferson was appointed United States minister to France. And this is the rest of the story. During Tom Jefferson's first winter abroad, several more American vessels were seized and their crews taken hostage for the Algerians. Jefferson said he felt absolutely suspended between indignation and impotence. But then he got an idea. It was an idea for what you might call a secret weapon that would end the 18th century hostage crisis. Let's see how he ended his crisis and how his formula might be applicable today. Incidentally, the government told him that his formula wouldn't work because it was too expensive, and so years passed, and some of the hostages died in captivity, and many of those remaining at hard labor wished they'd died. And except for the privately negotiated release of a couple of the hostages in 1792, all diplomatic efforts were failing, and the Algerians were seizing more American ships. By early 1793, there were 119 Americans held captive in Algeria. Newspapers in Boston and New York and Philadelphia were asking why. But then Tom Jefferson became our first Secretary of State. Then he said, "Are you going to try my idea?" And finally, Congress said yes, they'd try his idea. Congress agreed to appropriate funds for Tom's weapon. And do you know the threat of that weapon alone? Just the threat of it was sufficient to expedite a negotiated settlement in February of 1797, almost 12 full years after the crisis had begun. The 82 surviving hostages arrived in Philadelphia. They were free. So we did not even have to use Tom Jefferson's secret weapon after all. Somehow the Algerians just knew that they had nothing to match it. And time proved them right. So if anybody ever asks you how it all began, you'll be able to tell them it was Tom Jefferson's idea. It was a little something, a little club in the closet he used to encourage the release of hostages almost 200 years ago. And under threat of his weapon, those hostages were released. It was a weapon that needed only to be brandished to be effective. We called it the United States Navy. And now you know the rest of the story.